Good evening, everyone. This is the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission. The time is 7:38, and I call this meeting to order. I ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone who's showed up here today. Thank you for the folks in the audience here. And thank you at home if you're watching, or you will be watching soon. So before you should have an agenda. Is there any questions, comments, additions, or deletions to the agenda?
Yes, I'd like to add the fix-it station.
Okay. Does that be under reports?
Yes. And how about open space liaison?
Oh, yes.
Sorry.
Open space liaison. That's 2. And I believe you wanted to also add in Eagle Scout project?
No, that's fix-it station.
That is the fix-it station. Okay, great. All right. Any additional additions or any discussions? Hearing none, call a vote on the additions. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Hearing none. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so before us, we are 5 strong here tonight. That's good. We do have quorum over here. We do not have any minutes specifically to approve because last month we had a study session, and per rules, the study session doesn't have to specifically have any meeting minutes. So with that, we can go on to public comment. Is there anything from anybody in the audience that would like to talk about something that's not specifically on the agenda? Great. I will add that I did receive 1 email. And so for anyone that's interested, you can reach out to us at gibikeped@gmail.com, as well as, feel free to reach out to any commissioners ahead of time or on Facebook, and we will try to answer your questions either directly, through those medias, or bring them to the public comment period here on our monthly meetings. So we did have 1 question from a resident who was asking about the maintenance of the high school, middle school path. So that the resident has a daughter that tries to go from the middle school to the high school, has to walk through the snow and walk through the woods. Apparently there's not any maintenance happening with that, and so they were wondering if it was something that we would be under our purview and we'd consider it. For background, the high school, middle school path is on the Grosseal Public Schools property, so it's maintained by them. We have done some maintenance in the past, but from our understanding, it is supposed to be maintained moving forward by the schools, unless we were to enter into some sort of other agreement. With that, is there any other comments or things that other commissioners would like to add in regards to the high school, middle school path? Is there any interest from commission in order to talk more about the potential for us to enter into some sort of partnership with the schools on some of those paths?
That question was indicating that there was no snow removal on that path at all.
Correct.
Happening. Have you talked to the schools?
I have not. So if you don't mind, that would be great. Okay. With that, I'm going to forego the action items and go straight into reports. And the first item would be the fix-it stations. I know we have a member in the audience here would like to give us an update on those. So if you don't mind coming up to the podium, stating your name and telling us a little about yourselves and your project.
Hi, I'm Henry Verdoven. I'm making a fix-it station for my Eagle Scout project. Basically what that is a bike repair station where people can just go fix their bikes. Like,
Yeah, that'd be great.
It kind of looks like this right here. It's going to be placed in cement, roughly like somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000. That's basically it.
How did you become interested in this?
Basically, like I biked a lot before I had my license. Like almost everybody on the island is just like their main part of transportation before they get their license is just biking around. So from like age like 5 or 6 to like almost like 15, you're only using your bike to get around. And I find it's like really interesting because we don't have a bike repair station on the island.
First, I want to thank you for your interest in that. And like you mentioned, we don't have anything like that. We've had an interest in it. So, if there's some sort of partnership that we can do on this, that's great. So I guess before I open up to other commissioners, is there anything that you specifically require of us or would be helpful for you moving forward on this project?
I don't really think so. I think I have everything covered. I just need to get a couple permissions and then I'll be fine.
I have something to add to that. Henry's gonna need some fundraising to come up with the cost of these fix-it stations. Going through some past minutes, there's a club here on the island that might be willing to help him, and I've reached out to Henry that I'd help him out with this project. And we'll get together in the next couple of days, and I'll tell you who it is and what they're totally talking about, if that works for you.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Henry, I'm sorry. Henry, I'd like to thank you also. This is for an Eagle Scout project. I don't think you pointed that out, but we're proud of you for that too. To reach Eagle is quite a monument in your life. So, could you update us on exactly where you're considering locating this?
It's gonna be like right in front of the police station, hopefully, like by the like reading library and by the benches.
That's a great location for that. They can look at it and.
Past minutes, not to piggyback off of Alan, they were also talking about doing a second one towards the north end of the island, and I'll give you some more updates on that too. They're looking to sponsor possibly 2 of them. Make it a lot easier for you.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Good luck, Henry.
Thanks for coming in.
Is there anything further that we can do for you or to work with you on this? Do you need?
I don't think so. I just need like the permissions, and then I can just get fundraising from there.
Thank you.
Good luck, Henry.
Probably touch base.
You don't have to stay if you have to get home for school tomorrow.
For commissioners, we should probably touch base with the DPS manager as well as.
I'm already in touch with that.
Okay, great.
Henry is too. He's got a couple phone calls in, and I followed up on them today, and they're going to get back with them soon.
Is the chief of police and the fire chief, are they aware that you're interested in a station there? If you would, please.
I talked to the police chief, and he said that I need the permission of the like town person. I forgot.
Dale.
Township
Yeah.
manager?
Yes.
Yeah, and he said it'd be a great spot to do it.
Good. Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks again, Henry. All right. Moving back to action items, one item that we have to do tonight is a selection of the 2020 chair, vice chair, and secretary. For background, I've been serving as chair since this commission got started. I'm happy to continue doing that if there's no one else that's interested in doing it. But there would need to be a motion as far as the from the rest of the commission in regards to who that chair would be. Additionally, Dan has been serving as both the vice chair and secretary for about 2 years now.
Yep.
And with that, Dan has expressed an interest in potentially being vice chair still. And Christine, who is our newest member and who was not able to make it here tonight, she has expressed interest in being secretary. So based on that, is there anybody else that has interest in running for any of these said positions?
Brian, I would make a motion for the recommendation that you be reappointed by the township board as the chair, that Dan be reappointed as the vice chair, and that Christine be appointed as the secretary.
I would second that.
Discussion? Okay, well, hearing none, I say I would accept that position. Dan, I'm
I
sure.
accept it.
And Christine has mentioned to me before, so with that, could we, call the vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Okay,
No, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. It's very, very busy, tough thing to do. And with the budget and with the monthly agendas, and thanks to Christine too for her work.
Moving on, we'll go into the reports. So capital preventative maintenance. I want to mention that we do have maintenance happening. Will probably be going on a little bit later this year. Last year, we approved funds in order to do asphalt maintenance on our bike paths. So the company will come out and do overlays and crack sealing and potentially some full depth repairs as needed. So that we were not able to do all that last year based on how quickly winter came, which the construction company had the foresight to say, hey, we don't think we'll be able to get it in this year, so we didn't start any, which is good because that way we make sure that whatever we do is going to last and not be compromised by the winter. So I will have more to share on that in the coming months. I wanted to mention that we're looking to potentially do a GIS inventory or asset management plan of the shared use paths on the island, all the bike paths. So that way we'll be able to continue to monitor them to see like which ones are in good, fair, or poor condition. So that way we have running totals of mileage and can see how that has changed over time. And that way we'll be able to develop a 5-year plan or so in order to look at how much money will need to be invested in order to make sure that we keep the paths in good or fair condition. Is there any questions on capital preventive maintenance plan? Is there anything else people would like to add? Okay. I'll also add that, what's that?
5-year and 10-year plan?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, these are some of the bullets from our study session. I think that we were saying that it would probably be more of a 5-year plan as opposed to a 10-year plan in regards to the asphalt, because that's going a little far out as far as predictive. So the one thing I wanted to add is that we will have to submit our budget for the year. I'll be working with Ann Darzniak on that, and I will forward anything on to you via email for your comments. But I don't foresee anything different. I mean, we basically exhausted most of our maintenance funds in order to do the approved projects that we mentioned last year. So I don't see any other things really happening unless it's more of an emergency repair. Moving on, another item that we want to make sure that we look into is sign minimization, as well as just safety signage in general. So background, there has been folks that have asked about the signs along the bike paths. So sometimes people are complaining there's too much signage and maybe it's not needed. In other cases, people are asking, well, why is there a sign here but not over in another location, potentially at the same intersection? So we're looking to look at all that signage and be able to come up with recommendations on how to move forward with that. If there's one intersection that has a stop sign, but the other, approach from that intersection doesn't, does it make sense that, both have a stop sign, or does it make sense to remove both, or do you put in place a yield sign? We'd like to be able to look at that and provide our recommendations to engineers who can make that engineering judgment in regards to what signs belong where along our paths. And again, with the goal of minimizing signs when possible, both from an aesthetic standpoint, because we want to be able to preserve the rural nature of Groseal's open space areas, as well as just make sure that things are not having a negative burden on our path users, so not making them stop when it's not necessary for them to do so, or break the law and not stop and potentially get a ticket later on for doing such.
We're talking about physical signs and painted signs. I think we should restrict our painted signs until all the work is done, so we're not duplicating it.
What do you mean by painted signs?
Some painted signs on the path itself.
Where is there painted
I
signs?
thought I saw one, it was towards Horse Mill on Meridian. I could be wrong.
Okay. Yeah, please let us know if there's there because generally we do not have pavement markings along the paths
We were on the
themselves.
carts last October, a year ago. I saw one and I can't remember where I saw it, but it was painted on the path itself. I have to ride the paths again.
Brian, I do have a thought on that. The crosswalks that are in the roadway where the path will cross Meridian and then cross back. What are your thoughts on that? Because that, are we considering that part of the roadway or actually part of the path?
So you're talking about the crosswalks
The
where
cro-
you enter Meridian. So you cross Meridian in order to go to the other side.
Right,
of the
but
path.
it's all on asphalt. It's not signage. It's on the ground. The
Okay.
crosswalks itself.
The crosswalks themselves are, technically they're pavement markings, so they can be painted, but more often than not, if you want it to last, you're going to be using thermoplastic. So it's basically, like a tape that goes down that they heat up, and it has a much longer life than just your average paint. With that, being in the road, it is the jurisdiction of Wayne County Roads. So we would have to, get, talk with them and coordinate on that. But I think as part of moving forward, when we're looking at capital improvement projects, that we should be looking at what type of improvements we can, especially when your paths are crossing mid-block, where you don't have an actual signal to help stop traffic. I know that's something that has come up on Facebook posts, and especially based on, I believe it was in October when we had Walk to School Day, that there was some concerns from parents because they're trying to cross Meridian at Ferry and traffic's not stopping. And the way it's set up, well, they don't have to. But there are some motor vehicles that may be courteous and wanting to stop, but there's concerns also about, well, vehicles behind them. Are they going to stop as well, or are they going to pass that double yellow line and come through and the car in front of them created a blind spot, and so they're coming in and it could potentially still be a safety concern. I would say that, again, it's a little more complicated. Again, we want to look at the entire intersection and figure out what type of improvements are needed, but it is something that we should look at. And it doesn't really fall under the purview of just the signage minimization aspects. It'd be more of a safety improvement.
Actually, I witnessed an accident at Ferry Meridian where the person went to go around the person turning onto Ferry and broadsided the car that went to go around him. It was not pretty.
Complicated intersection. So Brian, what we're doing is we're assuming that is the county's responsibility because it's within their roadway.
Yeah, I mean, we have to get county approval for something like that. That being said, I think that we should be advocating for improvements if we feel that they're necessary. So it could be just more pavement markings. It could be pedestrian beacons or rectangular rapid flashing beacons, hawk signals, full traffic signals. It could be refuge islands. Not exactly sure what is necessary and what is possible, but again, I think we need to look at that in more detail and get engineers in here, as well as work with the county to figure out what the possibilities are. It's not something as simple as working within our own with our own path that we have the responsibilities for, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you.
Other thing I will add in both the signs as well as the capital preventative maintenance, there's something that we have discussed within our study sessions in regards to utilizing some tools that may be available from SEMCOG, Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, because they are modeling or looking to do pilots on trails based on work that's been done in St. Clair County, where they did inventory of all of their shared use paths across the county. And so they were able to mark where the pavement was good, where it was moderate, where it was fair or poor, where there was drainage concerns, where there was site distance issues, basically being able to, again, create this inventory so that way you can go back and make informed decisions based on that. So if everything goes according to plan, it might be one of these things that SEMCOG is able to develop the tools using ArcGIS, which is basically electronic mapping and GPS aspects, and you just you have a tablet, you go out there, and you survey it yourself. So there'll be more details to come on that if that's a possibility. But either way, regardless, if we do have that partnership, we should still go ahead and try and create an inventory of some sort for both pavement and signs. Next item we have is the capital improvement program, and Alan, you were starting to talk about that in regards to the safety improvements. But what we're trying to do is create a long-term plan for improvements that we want to see to the bike paths, both the existing ones as well as potentially new ones. So in regards to the paths, it might be better safety crossings, it might be trailhead improvements, it might be putting in a new bike path along a certain corridor. It could be looking into other types of bicycling or pedestrian facilities, so maybe looking at sidewalks or looking at bike lanes or wide paved shoulders, shared lane markings. Point is that we'd like to do something comprehensive and come up with a cost as well as time frame, so that way we can apply for grants as well as potentially ask the public how they would like to help pay for this. Questions, comments?
Public, are you talking about millage?
I mean, that is
Everything's on
one
the table.
possibility. Everything's on the table.
Okay.
But where possible, it'd be nice to use grants or other philanthropic sources. Next item under reports, we have education campaign. I kept this kind of broad to talk about a variety of different things. The first thing before I turn it over to anybody else is I want to mention as far as the cycling skills course, this was something that we tried to do last year. We were all set to do the program, which was going to be a partnership between Grozeal and the League of Michigan Bicyclists, and our instructor had to move, so he was out of the region, and so we lost that instructor and we didn't have anybody to replace him at such a short notice, so we ended up canceling the course. Since then, the League of Michigan Bicyclists, put out a job posting for an actual statewide coordinator for bicycle education campaigns, as well as cycling skills. And so I talked with their new contact that was a recent hire, and I'm hopefully in the coming weeks here I will have more information to share on potentially lining up a new instructor. And if that's the case, then we'll try and fast track this for probably a May or early June cycling skills course. With that, I figure the next thing we should probably talk about is Bike to School Day. Is there any progress on that or anything that we need to discuss?
It's May 6th, and nothing new on that.
Do you have a
Probably-
backup date?
No, not yet.
Okay.
What has happened in the past is the backup date has been on Thursday or Friday, but it depends on the weather.
Did we decide who's going to make that call on whether we're going ahead with the original date or a backup date? Is that going to be BPAC? Is that going to be the schools? I can't remember what we decided on.
Been
that.
me in the
Okay.
past.
Ooh, pressure.
I guess, is there anything that you need from your fellow commissioners in order to help make this happen?
The only thing that I was thinking of adding was for the elementary schools, it might be cool to have a little healthy snack-like object to hand out, was the only idea I had, which would maybe be a Kroger or similar donation. Though with any food item, you run into the whole allergy issue. Especially for the younger kids.
Do we still have reflectors and those things that we were passing out, having the police department involved with? Because that might be a good time to do that with the bicycling to school day.
Snacks and stuff like that, that's exactly what I was just thinking. And the last time I talked to Jane, she still had a box of them. Let me give her a call tomorrow.
I think that would be an
Gave
excellent.
every student in the elementary school, I believe, the bracelet, the Rinky bracelet, as part of the bus safety.
The other thing, Carl, is the wearing out of the batteries. That could be an issue too, so we'd have to check those. But that would eliminate the allergy situation by passing that stuff out. Let me call Jane tomorrow.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, I think it'd be a great idea to get rid of those, hand
Yes.
them out as possible. To let folks know, also at the tree lighting ceremony, Rebecca was able to pass out some of those bracelets ahead of time, and then we gave them over to Supervisor Loftus, who was able to continue passing them out. So I did see quite a few people wearing those as part of our parade down to Berardino's.
Actually, I saw somebody on the bike path yesterday walking after dark with the bracelet on.
Be a good idea if we do have some left over beyond handing them out
Kids
for.
are in the elementary school. Could you let me know to make sure?
It might be good just to connect with the police department again and see like,
How many
hey,
do you have left too?
yeah, how many they have left.
I'll
and then
stop by tomorrow.
Also,
Who did we give them to? I mean, I dropped them off. I forgot. Who did you recommend I give them to? Lieutenant Pellin. Yeah, he was out to lunch and I just left it with the dispatcher.
You also gave some to the bus,
Yes.
but those all, I believe, all went to the elementary school students, not to the middle and high school, who might take the bus.
So
So
I
the
got,
bus could perhaps use more for the older.
oh,
reconnect with Geneva through the bus department and find out if they're interested in doing it again.
I mean, do we want to pass them out through the bus or do we want to save them for the walk to school day?
Guess it'd be good to find out how many we have left.
Yes. And then make the determination.
Other thing I did want to mention in regards to education campaign is, again, SEMCOG will be doing a safety blitz in May. So it goes along with bike to school day, bike to work day. But it's basically it's the Walk, Bike, Drive Safe campaign. So in the past, we have shared videos on GITV, as well as we included information on our Facebook pages. So it'd probably be good for us to try and do that again.
The other thing that we've discussed in the past, the middle school might be open to either safety signs or even a safety presentation during advisory.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to do that at the same time,
The other thing I would just mention that in the past, we did it wasn't a contest, but it was just a call for folks to
Helmets?
create their own safety videos. So I know we had 2 submissions in the past where children were able to talk about any issue in regards to walking and biking to school or just safety in general. And so we played those on GITV. They are still on YouTube. It might be nice to call that out from the middle school and high school, so that way they could potentially show their creativity and include more content that, hey, maybe their peers might learn something when watching it. Okay. Last thing I just want to mention is that, and I apologize for the formatting over here, but I did have a list of different grant opportunities in some of those cycles. So we talked about this during our study session in January, but there are Safe Routes to School mini grants. I believe the application is now open. I put down here end of January, but that's actually when it was supposed to be released, and I think the call was put out in early February. So if you go to the Michigan Safe Routes to School website, there'll be more information about that, but that can be funds to help work on walking school buses or biking clubs, different aspects for walk to school day or bike to school day. And we might be interested in applying for that to see if there's something that can help us out, either just with those specific days of walk to school day or bike to school day, or if we plan on doing something more long term and more sustainable.
do you want me to say anything about that grant thing I attended?
Yeah, that would be great.
I attended on January 30th, Michigan National Resources, and I have a contact in southeastern Michigan. It's her area, and I have not been able to reach her, and she's the person that could help us with trailheads, additional funding, possibly, it deals with everything within the state of Michigan. A lot of it was expired the 1st of February, but there's also different time links. And I think that's something that we should sit down as a committee, and I can go over it with everybody. I'll bring some to our next study session, and we can just brainstorm on it, because there's some money out there with matching funds, and there's also some really neat things that I found. Let's say that if we had a parking spot for, you know, people to come in and park, let's say at the service center, public service center. If you get points. So if you had one parking spot for handicap, you might get 10 or 15 points. If you had two, the point system goes from 10 to 15 to 25 to possibly 30. So it's all based on a point system and your needs. And one of the caveats that they talked about is you can't be restricted to just say Roselle residents only. It has to be open to the public. And if we're talking about connecting with West Jefferson and that, then we will be opening it to the public. So there's a lot of possibilities, and it was really worth my time going out there and listening to what they had to say.
If I recall, there's at least three, if not three or more different pots of money available through the DNR.
Yes.
So was it like the Natural Resources Trust Fund?
Yep. And they also talked about one of the ones you got on here, Ralph Wilson Jr. There are a lot of people in the audience were talking about getting funds from that. So, I mean, this is something that, you got to have the matching funds. So it's something I think we should look into.
Yeah. To make mention about Ralph Wilson Jr., Ralph Wilson Jr. has funds that the foundation has funds that they need to spend within, I believe, the next 10 or 20 years. And that the goal is to spend it all, and it's millions of dollars, and so they're looking at ways to assist local communities with trails projects or bicycle and pedestrian projects. And so it could be the actual capital in order to do matching grants or build the projects, but it could be capacity in regards to helping design what type of projects might be moving forward, or coordinating efforts, or filling out grants. So there is a lot of opportunity with that, and so it'd be good to get on their radar.
If you want to keep looking into that.
Additionally, there's the Federal Land Access Program, and so we've worked with Vince Ziles with Detroit International Wildlife Refuge about potentially applying for that. That is not open at this time, as far as they're not calling for projects, but that's something that we would like to do, especially about connecting the Gibraltar Bay unit to the Humbug Marsh unit. So basically looking at projects that can connect along Grow Road, along East River, and then connect from Meridian to Jefferson. As well as we do have the Transportation Alternatives Program, and there's a rolling cycle for that. So, and that's a project where you can go out future years. So potentially we could come to them and say, hey, we're interested in doing a project in 2023. Here's what we're trying to do. This is like our estimated cost involved. We're hoping that we can get 50% match. And they say, well, if you can get 50% match, then we can conditionally commit to that. So then we would have, a time afterwards to try and figure out how we're going to raise that. And that could be through the Ralph Wilson Fund or other, other grant sources, or perhaps we can, talk to the people of Groseal and say, hey, are you willing to help, put in for this if we're able to get, $500,000 or $1 million in, funds in order to help build the project.
One of the ladies in the audience talked about that the matching funds, she said, did not necessarily have to all come from your community. It could be from other funds matching that program. And I found that pretty interesting too. So if you could piggyback off the various different funds, it'd be a savings to Groseal, yet we could complete one of these projects that we're going after. So it was a pretty interesting time spent, and I'm glad I went.
So with that, is there any other questions, comments, things people want to bring up in regards to grants? Hearing none, we can go into the open space liaison report.
Okay, we're gonna be a little proactive this year. Mike, can we put this up on a monitor, or should I put it up there? Yeah. Okay, last year we did our Dump Your Junk, program, and, what we're gonna do this year is we're gonna start out a couple months ahead of time. The date we've selected is May 16th, rain or shine, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. As you can see, there's some acceptable or unacceptable items: no mattresses, no pieces of broken furniture, toilets, electronics, railroad ties, and hazardous waste. What we will accept is gently used furniture that somebody else might think of as a treasure. Bikes, yard waste, large logs, shrubs, wood, building materials. We got bricks, cement, blocks, concrete, tile, marble, and drywall. The people that live in the apartment complexes on the island or the condos that have dumpsters as their trash removal instead of curbside pickup, you will be able to bring your broken furniture, your mattresses to the Dump Your Junk, and there will be somebody at the gate who will require you to show your proof of address. Now, the Dump Your Junk program is only available for Groseal residents. No contractors will be admitted. Again, it's going to be May 16th, 9 to 4 at the DPS yard. I'm looking for volunteers like we had last year. Everybody was amazed how many we had. And come on out and let's clean up the island. Anybody have any questions? Okay, that's it.
Thanks for that report.
Yeah,
Moving to the Township Board Liaison Report.
Thank you, Brian. I only had two matters. One was the nomination for chair, vice chair, and secretary. We've taken care of that. And the second one was the reminder for the budget, and you're taking care of that. So I have nothing further to report.
Into the chair's report, and I just have a few things to report. The first is, working with Deputy Clerk Brian Friel, we were investigating about the possibility of going from 9 members down to 7, based on that. In the past, it's been a little harder to fill those 9 positions, and there's a core group that has been working and doing lots of great things. But in order to hold meetings on the air, we need to make sure that we're at quorum. So that made sure that, with a larger body, and if those folks weren't available, that meant that we could not be publicly go on the air in regards to meetings. So with that said, we were investigating the possibility, and we learned that while BPAC had gone up to 9 members, that there wasn't an actual change in the actual ordinance that established BPAC, and so it's still at 7. So with that, we can stay at 7, and there's no need for any action by this commission or by the board in order to go to that. So with that, I believe we are at a full roster now. So
Great.
The second item I wanted to mention is that I've been trying to establish a meeting of all the commissioners in regards to the commission chairs or the vice chairs, as well as the township clerk, just to talk about issues in general for the year to come. What are the goals of each individual commission, and how we might be able to potentially coordinate efforts, work together, or at the very least, not get in the way of each other. So that was well received, but I have not been able to set up that meeting date yet. So I'm hoping to do that in the coming weeks here. The last thing I want to report is that the John Dingle Visitor Center at Humbug Marsh, as part of the Detroit International Wildlife Refuge, It will be having their grand opening on May 9th. Originally, they're planning to coordinate a ride that would start in Wyandotte, roll on the river, and come through and on Groseal. Unfortunately, with the bridges situation, that's not happening this year, but we're hoping in the future that can. So I guess with that, I just want to say, hey, if anyone's interested in bringing their bike, and you can go over the toll bridge for free still, and you can still roll along the river and go over to the grand opening of the Detroit International Wildlife Refuge. And hope to see you there.
But you can't cross that Groseal Parkway.
No, not at Groseal Parkway.
We were teasing at the Trenton Trail Town meeting that you can carry your bike on your back and you can swim across. Just a joke.
I'm sure that you can fit a bike on a boat.
Sure. Good report, Brian.
With that, is there any other things that we need to address in this meeting here? Hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we close this meeting at 8:18. Everyone walk, bike, drive safe.